What's up, fam? All right, I want to talk today about the power of repetition, what it is, and the importance of it, and how it can affect your life in ways that you may or may not know. Some of you probably heard of the word subconscious mind, well, the subconscious and the conscious mind. Okay, the conscious mind is what we our filter, what we should use as our filter. That's I think that's the purpose of the conscious mind, is to act as a filter, to basically the guard at the gate that what you allow to accept or not accept that comes into your mind by way of media, listening to music, things you hear people say, just any information that comes to your mind. That the conscious mind is the guard at the gate that would allow you to either accept or reject it. The subconscious mind does nothing but accept. But your life, 90% of the results you get in life are pretty much dictated by your subconscious mind. Most people don't know that subconscious mind is the basically the ruler of your habits. You know what I mean? The decisions that you make unknowingly, things that you don't really realize you do, but you do automatically. That's your subconscious mind. And most of the things we do in life are based on habitual, behaviors and things like that. So where repetition comes in is, repetition is how you program the subconscious mind. Okay, obviously I'm a barber, right? So me being a barber, at one point I didn't know how to cut hair, right? But I had to program myself to be a barber, meaning I had to constantly cut hair, I had to constantly read the books, constantly study the information that comes with the territory of being a barber. Repetition is the mother of skills. Some of you may have heard that. So me repeatedly cutting hair, repeatedly learning the trade, repeatedly, just constantly investing. The repetition of me cutting hair every day, eventually you get better at it. And not only do you get better at it, obviously there's different types of hair and things like that. You get faster at it. And then not only do you get faster at it, you become, you can teach others the skill, you know what I'm saying? Because you've repeated it so many times. That's how skills are basically learned, by way of repetition. Some people are naturals at things, but it's the repetition of the act that makes you better at it, especially if you making a conscious effort to get better. You're not just, just throwing it on the wall, seeing what sticks. But even with that, you can get better at something. It's like hearing a song. You might hear it for the first time, not know any of the words, but you're constantly hearing it over and over. And it could be a song you hate. And, we all know about, stuff like that. You hear a song you can't stand on the radio all the times. The next thing you know, you find yourself singing it. Repetition, that's that subconscious mind giving you feedback on what you allow to be programmed in it, right? So basically, your subconscious mind is basically like a computer, like operating system, and you can program it. You are in charge of programming it. A lot of times we don't think so. We allow ourselves to get stressed out about what's going on in our lives, and it's usually due to some sort of subconscious programming. And it could have happened when you were a child, the repetition of what you saw growing up, or the repetition of the images that you may have seen on television or things like that. Like it's a very powerful tool that I think a lot of us overlook. And it's also how we get our identity. I talk on, several videos about our identity. And you can change your identity. And sometimes we can lie to ourselves about what their identity really is. But with that being said, in order to change your identity for the better, then what does that look like to you? The repetition of that. even if it's just a visual repetition of it, but also what you're telling yourself. Speaking is one thing to say, like, okay, I'm successful, or I'm beautiful, or I'm rich, or whatever, but it not only it has to be repeated, it also has to be some sort of emotion tied to it, because that's when the belief come in, even if the results isn't necessarily shown on the front end. But along with the thought process, the habitual thought process of wherever it is you're trying to go, the emotion tied to it, and the work that goes along with that identity. So like I say, if I want to be a barber, I can't just say I'm a barber, but I'm not doing the work of a barber, you know, or a master barber. So you got to consider that as well. With books, there's a lot of books out there I read over and over. One being, one of my favorite books is called The Power of the Subconscious Mind by, I think, Dr. Joseph Murphy. Okay, I read this book regularly because it's the repetition of the information that changed the outlook, you know? Like, you have people that lives have been changed by reading a book once or whatever, but it's usually because they adopted the principles of that book and they repeated them on a consistent basis, which in turn changed their identity or what they became in life. Because like it or not, every repetition is a vote for your identity. You have to, you can't argue with, I mean, you can argue with it all you want, but that's pretty much what that is. Every repetition is a vote for your identity. Every haircut is a vote for my identity as a barber. Every time I save money, that's a vote for my identity of being financially disciplined. Every repetition of a depressing thought, I'll never get ahead, I'm always broke, I'm always struggling. You constantly repeating that to yourself, and then you get mad when life yields those results. It's because you're repeating that idea to yourself and you're getting emotionally involved with it consistently. Now, I'll be honest with you, it's some of the hardest work to do. Even in another book that I would highly recommend, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. He talked about the most laborious thing a person can do is to visualize and hold that vision of the life they want despite present circumstances not showing that. That's going to make you what some will call like a master of the universe. If you can hold the vision of the life you want despite your outside circumstances showing you the opposite, you'll eventually get there. But the problem is, in a lot of things in life, we want to start new habits. We want to start new things. We want to start filming content. We want to start becoming a barber. Like, I've seen people quit barbering. I've seen people quit things before they allow the repetition to work for them. You know, they'll abandon the mission. You know, they'll abort the mission. And it's like I like to say, you know, people hit the eject button on their goals and their plans, and they just, you know, get out of there. And that's unfortunate, man. I've been guilty of it myself. So I'm not here to down anybody, but sometimes you got to stay in there a little bit longer if you really truly believe it's something that's going to work for you. And a lot of times it can come easy. You know, it just depends on your outlook on it. You know, if it's worth that much to you, you will hang in there. And another thing, there's a lot of times your conscious mind and your subconscious mind can be at war with one another. Meaning, on a conscious level, it's like, man, I want this success. I want to do this. I believe I can do that. And deep down, that subconscious mind, like, man, you ain't gonna do this. You ain't gonna have that. You ain't going here. You're not doing this. And this is back and forth. But the only way to beat out that subconscious thinking is the repetition of the thought that's going to put you where you want to be. If you allow that subconscious to win you over, and it's hard to do, you gotta You gotta beat it down if that makes sense to you. Meaning like beat it down by way of repetition. So, I mean, you hear about like lottery winners. People that win all of these millions of dollars and they end up broke. It's because on the subconscious level they always been broke. That's so eventually that's your compass, your mental compass. If you're on the subconscious level, you are broke. No matter how much money you get, you're gonna find a way to lose it. You hear about it all the time. Not even necessarily lottery winners, athletes or entertainers or just people that you've seen come into a lot of money and then they eventually lose it because on a subconscious level they were broke and their habits eventually led them there, unfortunately. So if you're lucky enough to come into a lot of money, you better become a millionaire or a billionaire on a subconscious level so you can hold on to that money. And then you'll hear about people losing all their money and figuring out a way to get it back because on a subconscious level, they were always wealthy, they were always rich, they were always powerful. And people who have those mentalities, you can't keep them down no matter what you throw at them. You got to keep that in mind as well. Like your subconscious mind is programmed by what you do repeatedly, not what you do occasionally, not what you do every now and then to, I guess you could say, move the needle with what you're going through and how you're feeling. You got to repeat the things that are going to serve you for the greater good. So with that being said, repetition works, whether it's negative or positive, repetition works. I'm sure you understand that, especially through music. You hear some trap music or some drill music and you listen to that over and over and over and over and over. It's going to do something to your mood. I don't care how strong-minded you think you are. And you listen to some slow, some classical, or just some real positive, affirming music, that's going to do something to you if you listen to it consistently over and over and over. So that's the same with positive messages and negative messages. There are some videos, like every now and then, one of my favorite people to listen to is, rest in peace, Bob Proctor. I will listen to one Bob Proctor video just like every day for like 90 days. And I would start my morning off with it because just getting your day off on the right note with some sort of positivity, that to me is like, it's a way of programming yourself. That's what you feed in your mind. Like when you feed your body food, you feed in your mind positive information or information that's going to make you better, So in closing, I want to say this. If you got a goal or something you're trying to achieve, it doesn't even have to be something that you're trying to acquire. Maybe it's just something about yourself that you want to change, right? Figure out what are the leading indicators or the behaviors that is necessary that if repeated, that the success of the goal will be inevitable. What are those behaviors? What does that look like, right? Find out what those behaviors are, and then you adopt them, and then you repeat them, and then after a while, you take an assessment. If you need to tweak something, you tweak it. But for the most part, you repeat those leading, indicating behaviors that's going to lead you to the success that you want. I believe that wholeheartedly. I've done that in several areas of my life, whether it's through fitness or my career as being a barber. Like, I showed up every day, I promoted myself every day, and I'm making a great income as a barber. And as I go along, obviously with the times changing and things like that, you got to tweak, the formula. But that's to you to decide as you go along. But for the most part, it's simple, but it's hard, if that makes sense to you. Meaning, it's the activity in and of itself is simple, but it's hard to be consistent at it. And we all struggle with consistency, but we are all consistent. But a lot of times we just consistent at the things that doesn't serve our purpose for the better. So with that being said, y'all, I'm out. Y'all have a great one. This is Upholding the Standard.